This is a question about power and control, about whether you live as a man or function as someone's obedient, well-groomed pet. Every man is born with two creatures inside him, a loyal dog and a cunning wolf. One obeys, one watches, one rolls over, the other waits and strikes. From childhood, society teaches you to feed the dog to be nice, quiet, predictable. But in a world ruled by predators, safety is a cage, not a reward. So let me ask you something brutal and honest. Have you killed the dog in you yet? Because if you haven't, someone already holds your leash. And that leash, it's made of praise, politeness, and quiet obedience. You were trained to believe that being a good boy is the goal. That if you're agreeable, soft-spoken, and nice enough, the world will reward you. But Machiavelli saw through that illusion centuries ago. He warned, it is much safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose. Because love, in the real world, is conditional. It bends with convenience. But fear commands respect. The dog inside modern men doesn't understand this. It craves validation, not victory. It chooses comfort over confrontation. It trades strength for social approval. But what has that obedience cost you? That craving to be liked, has it made you powerful or invisible? Because here's the brutal truth. Being harmless isn't a virtue in a world that devours the passive. It's a liability. So ask yourself, what if the very traits you were praised for were the ones that made you weak? But if the obedient dog makes you invisible, then what does the wolf make you? Feared, respected, free. See, the wolf isn't evil, it's simply aware. It doesn't act to be liked. It acts to survive. It studies people, tracks intentions. It reads the terrain, the tone in a room, the weakness in a handshake. Where the dog waits for a command, the wolf calculates his next move. And when the moment is right, he takes it without hesitation. Machiavelli understood this brutal truth of power. He wrote, "A wise prince should imitate both the fox and the lion. The fox to recognize traps, the lion to crush enemies." Power is not about morality, it's about mastery. The modern man must awaken this duality, the cunning of the fox, the strength of the lion. To wait is weakness. To hesitate is to lose. So ask yourself, when was the last time you chose risk over routine, strategy over comfort, victory over approval? Because the wolf knows when to hunt and when to disappear. Do you? And while the wolf knows how to vanish and strike with precision, most men don't even realize they've been neutered. Because the dog in you isn't just born. It's fed daily, systematically. You're told to be good, be agreeable, be nice, and this conditioning hides in plain sight. Corporate jobs don't reward vision or boldness. They promote quiet compliance. Speak up too often, and you're difficult. Rock the boat, and you're replaceable. Relationships often do the same, training men to dull their edge, to silence instinct for the sake of peace. And modern self-help, it preaches comfort over confrontation, healing over hunger. But Machiavelli wouldn't recognize this softness as strength. Because modernity isn't just civilizing men, it's domesticating them, turning potential wolves into polite, tail-wagging workers. Society tells you, be useful, not dangerous. But useful to who? To what system? So here's the brutal question. If you disappeared today, would the world notice, or would it just replace you with another well-trained dog? If the world wouldn't even flinch when you vanish, then maybe it's time to stop existing for it. Maybe it's time to kill the part of you that's been trained to obey. The first kill is not physical, it's psychological. You stop apologizing for your presence. You stop performing like a good little worker waiting for treats. You stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, what do I want, and how do I take it? This is where the wolf awakens. You begin observing instead of pleasing. You realize silence is sometimes louder than begging. You stop chasing validation and start cultivating strategy. Machiavelli doesn't tell you to be cruel. He tells you to be calculated. Know your enemies but say nothing. Control your image bet. Let no one see your mind. Understand morality, but never let it cage your action, because power doesn't come to those who ask it, comes to those who take, strategically. This isn't about chaos. It's about control, precision, poise, purpose. So ask yourself, are you still living for approval? Or have you started preparing for dominion? But even when you start preparing for dominion, something inside resists. It whispers, don't go too far. Don't be too much. Don't become the villain. That resistance, that's the dog, still alive, still begging. You were trained to associate ambition with evil, assertiveness with arrogance, strategy with manipulation. You were told silence is maturity, but often it's just fear dressed up in virtue. You've been conditioned to believe that being harmless makes you a good man. But Machiavelli warned, the illusion of virtue is the cage of the powerless, and guilt, that's the leash. The invisible collar society fastens around your throat every time you dare to step beyond the fence. You feel it when you say no without explanation, when you pursue something for yourself. That guilt isn't your conscience, it's your conditioning. It's the fear of the dark masculinity, part of you capable of carving out your own path with no one's permission. But what if everything they told you was bad? The ambition, the assertiveness, the hunger wasn't your downfall, but your strength. What if your power didn't need to be tamed, it just needed to be owned? So if guilt was the leash and fear, the cage, then freedom begins with clarity, not cruelty, not chaos, just pure, strategic clarity. The man who kills the dog within doesn't become wild, he becomes sovereign, because true power isn't loud, it's silent, intentional. It doesn't bark for attention, it acts with precision. The goal isn't to be feared by others, it's to never fear them again. The Machiavellian man doesn't crave dominance for ego, he seeks it for independence. He leads not because he wants to be followed, but because he refuses to be led blindly. He doesn't ask, he takes. He doesn't explain, he executes. He doesn't follow the script, he writes it. Machiavelli once said, men ought either to be well treated or crushed. Power doesn't make room for middle ground, so ask yourself, are you still hoping to be treated well, or are you ready to claim a throne no one will hand you? Because here's the truth, you are not born a prince, you become one, and becoming one means killing the dog before it dies of slow obedience. So again I ask, have you killed the dog in you yet, or will you die still wagging your tail? If something inside you stirred while hearing this, if a quiet, watchful part of you looked up from the shadows, don't ignore it. That was the wolf, still alive, still waiting for you to stop apologizing, waiting for you to stop chasing love from people who'd replace you in a heartbeat. You were not born to be harmless. You were born to choose your nature, to sharpen it, to wield it. The wolf is not your enemy, it's your edge. And that dog, that obedient version of you who only wanted to be accepted, he served his purpose, but he cannot follow you where you're going. There comes a point in every man's life when he must decide, will I live quietly in the world others built for me, or will I rise dangerous, clear, and awakened, build something of my own? You don't owe the world your obedience. You owe yourself your power. So I'll ask one last time, have you killed the dog in you yet? Or will you die still wagging your tail?